Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of VAAS Live. I'm Seth Jones, along with Master Draftsman and Instructor Chad Nuss. We're so grateful that you guys are joining this evening for another episode as we put the conversation into the creativity, and we're going to talk all things art, technique, skills, or even random trivia or movie stuff. It doesn't really matter. We just kind of go with the flow, and it's usually directed by you. So the whole goal of these VAAS Live sessions, if you're just joining us for the first time, or even if you're a veteran viewer, the goal is to get you creating alongside us. And Chad and I do a lot of different projects, but we've been very fortunate to see Chad go through an entire process of building out his graphic novel, and I'm continuing to work on one of my oil paintings. So we're so grateful that you guys join us. Thanks for joining us across all the different platforms: Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, X, Instagram. We're so grateful for you guys, and we're also grateful for everyone that watches it not live, maybe later at a different time, a different day, or when your schedule allows. But we're grateful that you join us. Make sure that you let us know you're here. Make sure you ask some questions. If you got anything that you've been asking or want to ask for a while, we're happy to help and answer as best we can. But before we dive in any further into your questions or thoughts, Chad, how are you, good sir? How's your weekend?
It's good. I'm doing well. Good weekend. Pretty, as we had kind of a down week at Voss, so it was kind of a week off for us. And although you were busy doing a lot of promotion
That's
at different
right.
schools and everything, but yeah, it was a little bit of a relaxing week. And first week of school for my kids, so we were getting adjusted to new schedules and new schools, new classes, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was good. How about you?
It was amazing. I tell you, it was our first real chance to get into the schools. Due to the renovations last year, we missed the beginning of school. We opened in October and missed the August and September windows. And so I got to be honest, it was amazing to see how people had already recognized us as the Visual Arts Academy and Studio. We actually got to see a number of students that currently attend. And it was just really great to be at the school orientations and just get to meet a lot of the families, a lot of the young artists. It was amazing. I took this painting and set it up to paint live. And it was really interesting because I think the most intrigued people were actually the parents. And I said, well, you know what? We do offer adult classes as well. And we actually got a pretty good resonance from that, Chad. And it was just a blast. All the schools, the administrations, everybody was so grateful and welcoming and wonderful. And it was great to be there. It was awesome.
That's awesome. So it looks like you've got quite a bit more done on your painting. Why don't you give us a little update on where you're at?
Yeah. So while we were at the events, it was really great because some of our other team members went. Michelle went and Caitlin went. And so while they really interacted and engaged a ton with a lot of the families and young artists, I was painting live. And so I've actually have been able to put probably about 5 or 6 hours of work into this painting. And if you haven't seen it in a little while, guys, it may not look like a massive amount, but I ended up getting this entire left-hand section completely done, which I feel really, really good about. And I even started working pretty heavily on Caitlin's face, and now I'm moving into her shirt. But the really fun part is, and I actually had a discussion with the student of this the other day, is picking and choosing. Connie, if you're watching, it was Connie that I had a conversation with. She was talking about the ability to create movement within a painting so it doesn't feel so stagnant. And we were discussing the brushwork. And if you can't really see it here, but maybe I'll move the camera around, you can see that there are certain areas of the painting shadow that are really rendered or really tight. But then there's other areas that are very loose and very brushwork oriented, very stroke based, right? Very heavy brush strokes. And so it's really neat to see even students coming in going, hey, you're consciously picking to be light there. You're constantly picking to, be rendered there. And I love the fact that our students are learning the control that an artist has with how they produce a piece. And so that's where I'm at now. I'm going to continue to work on the shirt. I think that's what I'm going to focus on today, the folds, really getting in there, finding a balance between tight and gestural with these brush strokes, because I really want the skin and the faces to pop. Does that make sense, Chad? I want this
Hmm.
faces and the skin to not be over cluttered by all these materials and the blankets and everything else. So we'll see if I can pull it off, but that's kind of where I'm at with this. And it has been a joy to actually put some hours on this during the week, and especially in front of people and at the schools. But I'm pretty excited. I think my goal today, we typically go over goals, is if I can get this front sleeve done and as much of this shirt here, I'll feel pretty confident with success today. So we'll see how that comes about. But what about you, bud? What are you working on?
Yeah, so I'm back at page 6. That's where I left off last week, and man, it is really driving me crazy. And so last week when I ended, I felt pretty good about it, and then I didn't look at it for a couple days, and I got it back out, and I just was not happy with it. And even now, and so I ended up redrawing it
Oh
because
wow.
it was too much. I had erased so much. There was so much smudging and everything on it. It's getting pretty dirty and messy and hard to see. So I just started over. I felt like the ship was way too small. I wanted it to be kind of big and in your face, so I kind of made it bigger. The thing I keep running into is it's so round, it almost has like a blimp-like feel, which I don't like that because in on the page 1, as you can see here, it's more streamlined and aerodynamic, and then when you're
Yep.
getting over here, it's looking too round. Like
Almost
and I
bloated.
yeah, and I don't like that. And so I keep working on it and keep refreshing it and changing it and everything, and I just can't get it where it is. And so the good part about that is that everyone else can experience that struggle with me. I think this is the part that artists tend to hide or
I
like
would agree.
not show, is the difficulty, the redrawing, the erasing, the whatever, the process that it takes to get it to where you want. So this is just evidence that I had worked on it for hours, on live, and then worked on it some more, put it down for a few days. I thought I had a good place. When I look back at it again, I was like, man, it's just not right. So I went back and redid it again. And sometimes that's what you have to do. You have to redo it a couple of times sometimes until you get it
Yep.
where you want. Um,
Well,
yeah.
and I think that's a healthy thing to see, right? Because you don't always get it right the first time. It's not
Hmm.
it's not like you're going to just nail every page, every drawing, every sketch. But I think you're right. I think there's this kind of, especially for, well, maybe everybody actually. Maybe it is just an entirely. I was going to say for young artists, there's this idea that it's perfection on go one. Like
Yeah.
first go, first pass, everything's perfect. But it's not. And I think it's fortunate that you're willing to share that process. And I do think it's good for people to see it because, we have some students that come in going, okay, I'm taking my first painting class. Here we go. I'm ready to paint beautifully,
Yeah.
and you realize, no, there's a lot of mistakes. There's a lot of errors. There's a lot of redrawing, repainting, remixing, even with color mixing, right? I'm teaching a color theory class this semester. Can you imagine how many times people are going to mix a color and not get it right?
Yep.
And so I think it's healthy to get into the idea that it's practicing, it's repetition. And I love that you were able to willing to share with that. And Chad, honestly, when I'd seen the first drawing, I didn't really think it was bloated, but when you started talking about it and then I looked at it this time, I go, oh man, he's right. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have noticed it at first, but once you brought it up, I'm sitting there going, yeah, he's 100% right. This is not, it doesn't have the same dimensionality as the
Yep.
other drawing.
Yeah, and that's where you have to be like kind of savage with yourself, like, and be willing to say, this is not right. This doesn't look good. I think a lot of times we'll try to kind of justify maybe something in our drawing or painting that doesn't look exactly the way we want it to. But I've always had kind of the approach that if I keep looking at something and it's distracting to me, it's because it's not where I want it to be. I have to get to a point where when I look at the drawing, everywhere I look, I'm happy with it, and then I'm settled. And so this just recently happened on this secret project that I mentioned last week,
Oh yeah.
that I worked on this week. There was a part of it that I had finished the particular panel I was working on, and I took a picture of it because a lot of times what I'll do is, especially a larger drawing, I'll take a photograph on my phone, and then throughout the day I'll just take it out and look at it and see if it's still where I want it to be, and that helps me kind of edit as well. And so I took a photograph of it and I looked at it later. I was like, there's just something not right about this, and my eye kept gravitating towards a particular part of the drawing, and I was like, yeah, that's the part that I need to fix. Because if my eye keeps going to that spot and I'm not intentionally making that the focal
Exactly.
point, then that there's something wrong there. So I
Yep.
went back and I fixed it, and my eye was then free from that spot. I was able to look all over. So every time I look at this, I'm getting that same thing. I just keep looking at the roundness of this spaceship, and I'm like, The other one's just sleek and long and straight and aerodynamic. This is more looking like a blimp, but it's very difficult to draw a spaceship coming at you when the fuselage is like a tube without it looking like that. I mean, I even looked up some reference photos of spaceships, and they have that round, like almost like a blimp quality to them. But you have to, I don't know, that I'm kind of stuck because I'm like, how do I get beyond that to make it look the way the first drawing looked, where it's more like an arrow rather than a blimp? So that's what I'm wrestling with here, and I'll keep working on it until I get done. And it's also, and this is something I also share with my students. If I get to a point where I'm so frustrated with this, I can't fix it, then I'll work on another page, or
You're
I'll
reading my mind.
yeah, or I'll go ink something else, just to, it's not the end of the world that I can't get this particular angle and drawing done. This is also why a sketchbook comes in handy, because then you can go in your sketchbook, you can try different angles, you can kind of work on it instead of what I did, which is not what you're supposed to do, is rework the final drawing itself. And then if you overwork it, then the paper gets muddy and
Yeah, you've
eventually
worked it to
gets,
death, so to speak. Yeah.
yeah, and that's what I was doing with the first one. So, and I'm kind of
Well,
on the cusp of doing that again. And I think what'll happen is if I can't in these next 2 hours kind of settle where I want this drawing, then I will work in the sketchbook a few versions of it until I get it.
well, that's something I was going to ask is at what point do you go, okay, the initial concept, the initial, thumbnail or the initial drawing or whatever it was is no longer effective. At what point do you say I need to rethink the overall page? Does that happen or do you just stick with it until you figure it out?
I usually stick with it, but I think yeah, I think that's where the sketchbook is going to come in handy, where I just need to go in and draw this particular ship from different angles until I get a good feel for what I, you know, this perspective is very extreme because it's like coming right at you, and that's a very difficult angle to draw without reference. And so I've got to work on that, and I really want to get it right because I know if I can get it right, it's going to be a very dynamic page. The
Yep.
spaceship coming right up at you, it's going to have that feel of motion and extreme perspective that I think in the background you can't really see because it's a lot of sketches, but I've got this extreme, almost like what do you call that when they do the rounded lens, like the
Fisheye.
yeah, I've got kind of a fisheye perspective going on in the background. So the background's great. It's where I want it. Up in the top, you can't really see it right now, but I put the city in the background, which is very important because in the story, this launch pad that the spaceship is launching is outside the city, and no one knows exactly where it is. And there's a really good reason for that. And so, and you'll have to read the story to pick all that out. But so the background is arranged a particular way. I've got that where I need it. I just need this spaceship to be drawn correctly. So
Well, that's one of the
yeah,
things I was going to ask is because correct me if I'm wrong, but this is pretty early in the novel, right? So
yeah,
it's one of those key kind of intriguing moments to get you flipping the pages. And so
yeah.
I agree with you. It is an incredibly dynamic drawing, right? And concept.
Yeah, I
I
think
just think it's interesting for all those people out there who are creators. Is there a point where you go, nope, this isn't, you know, um, like certain artists that we know in the comic industry, you know what? I'm just not going to draw legs. I'm not going to draw feet,
yeah, yeah. No, I don't ever want to be that like that. Like I don't want to shy away from something just because it's like super difficult or it's not working. But to your point, there are times where you just get to a point where you're like, this particular composition is not working. My issue here is that's not my issue because the composition's working. I think the dynamism, I guess you could say, of the picture is there. It's just a matter of getting the spaceship drawn correctly. So I know I can do it. It's just going to take some practice and working it out to get exactly where I want. And if I've got to do all 40 something other pages first, then I'll do that. But I will get it to where I want it. So
I
yeah,
think
so
your
we'll see. I'm not
persistence
I'm
will
not going
pay
to give
off.
up on it yet. What'd you say? I'm sorry.
I think your persistence will pay off 100%.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and these are the kind of things that are good, like personal lessons. As far as this is the stuff that stretches you as an artist and helps you improve by doing things that are really hard that you're not used to or don't practice a lot. This forces you to practice And so, some people have complimented on, my ability to do perspective and that kind of thing. What they don't realize is there's a lot of times that when I'm doing perspective, I make a lot of little incorrect
Uh-huh.
things, but you can't tell because the rest of it looks right. But the only way you can get there is if you do enough of it. And so when you're drawing a comic book, it's not just about splash pages and awesome dynamic fight scenes and characters. It's also buildings and backgrounds and landscapes and all that kind of stuff. And the more you work on that, the easier it becomes, and the better you get at it. So,
Well, and the better the story. The
yeah,
story's the one that suffers, I think, when you're not able to create that, versatile, imagery, right? Like if
yeah,
it's constantly a medium shot of your characters with very limited backgrounds, you don't have a sense of
yeah,
environment or space.
yeah,
If it's constantly just these, really, same shots, same angles, same depth, same everything else,
yep,
it's no longer intriguing, right? And then the story, which to me is ultimately what we have to focus on, right? The story then suffers. And because it's a visual story doesn't mean that, have I seen some really cool things done with limited, stylistic art? Yes, 1,000%. I'm not saying you can't do things that are really unique and interesting and stylistically, engaging. But ultimately, the goal is to tell the story properly. And if you, as a creator, say this page, and you went into beautiful detail and explained it to us really well. If this is a necessary shot that's going to propel the story forward, it's got to be done. You got to
yeah,
find a way to get it done.
yep, yeah. And I mean, if I was working for an editor, I would not be able to change the shot. Like this would be the shot. You'd have to figure it out. And so I try to challenge myself in that same way to be like unforgiving in that sense. Like this is the shot. This is what needs to be done. If the composition was off and the page just wasn't working as a whole, then yeah, I would definitely change it. But I think the page is where it needs to be. It's just getting this spaceship right. So yeah, we'll figure it out. So
I believe that to the fullest. But I think, I want to kind of go back on something you were talking about and kind of emphasize that a little bit, that the talk of challenging yourself. I think it's easy. Not, well, I shouldn't say it's easy. I think that it's common that artists kind of get stuck into a production level that they like, if that makes sense.
hmm
They kind of continue to replicate things that they get comfortable with. And I recently watched a movie. It's an older movie, but I was blown away by it. I had recently seen a clip of it. You may have seen it, but I think you would absolutely love it. It's stars Alfred Molina, and it's Red. It's called Red,
okay.
and it's a play that was a limited run play that they then recorded, and it's about Rothko. And
Oh, I just saw a advertisement for it.
it's old. It's like years old.
Hmm.
And I saw a clip of it, and I was like, how have I not seen this?
Yeah.
And so, Caitlin and I, we found it, we watched it, and I immediately messaged Thomas and was like, dude, you have got to watch this. And it's really intriguing, really interesting. But what I like is it does kind of challenge that idea of becoming complacent, right? And my coach, Coach Cummings, Mike Cummings, who's a professor at the Savannah College of Art and Design, was also one of my professors. His statement as a coach was complacency will kill you.
Yeah.
If you become complacent, it'll get you. And what I think is funny is many, many years later, one of the owners of one of the companies that I work for, his statement, Chad, was if you're green, you're growing. If you're ripe, you're rotten.
Yeah.
And it's that same idea of like, if you have peaked, then you're no longer growing. And I think a lot of times artists kind of get that way. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. I'd love to know what everybody thinks out there. If you're watching and listening, do you think that it's easy as an artist to kind of sometimes get stuck into your production level and replicating the things that you do well? I know for me, this painting is a challenge. I know that I typically paint animals, and I did a whole series mostly of animals. And I know I can paint certain things fairly well, but this is a whole stretch for me. These folds, the portraiture work, this is a stretch, and I'm very grateful for it. I'm grateful that Thomas and Chad and Caitlin have all pushed me to do these because it's getting me out of my comfort zone, Chad. It's pushing me to get better.
Yeah, I think especially on the commercial side, it's very easy to become complacent because you are under such a time pressure that if you know you can do a certain style or a certain way of telling stories, and you can do it quickly, then that's going to pay off. But unfortunately, you're not going to grow as an artist when you're doing that,
Well,
and so
and you're right. And in the commercial work, that's what they're paying to get. They typically see a style or an execution, and they go, "That's what I want."
yeah,
And so you
exactly.
got to give them what they want, right? Because that's what they're requesting. So I think you're right. I think in the commercial world, it is easier to get stuck there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's one of my only critiques of Jim Lee, who is one of my favorite all-time artists. And I have to be very careful to say this, but I do kind of get tired of the same Batman. Like
Yep.
he's done a million of the Batmans standing on over a gargoyle on the edge of a building. It's raining and there's a moonshine in the background, and all he's doing is changing the arms or the legs or the way his body's positioned. And I love them. They look amazing. I could never do anything on that level, but at the same time, you're just like, man, you've done this like 100 or
Yep.
1,000 times, like at some point. But that's what people pay for, and that's what he's known for. And so, of course, he's going to do, and he's fast at it. So, of course, that's what he's going to do, and that's just the nature of the business. So,
But there will come somebody will come along and change just like he did, and a couple of other guys, right? Like, I mean, I'm always blown away by Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man.
yeah,
When he took over Spider-Man and it became those super organic webs all over the place and the super extreme poses, but somebody's going to come along and they'll do something completely different and it'll change things up, who knows when that's going to be, right? I mean, what was the golden era of comics and how long was that? I mean, same thing. You and I talked a little bit about this in the painting world, right? Or in the fine art world. What's it going to take to change it up again?
someone
What's
will
the
come
next big
along,
movement,
and
if that makes sense?
yeah, someone will come along and tape a banana to the wall, and that'll change
Oh Lord.
everything. So,
Yeah, yeah. If we had some of our regular viewers, some might say that's AI. I disagree with that, but some of that we might get that. We got a nice comment here from Matt, Chad. If you want to read that one out or put it up on the screen, sir.
okay, yeah, sure. Let's see here.
Matt, it's great to see you, bud. Hope you're doing all right.
Yeah, Matt, good to see you. It says, I think Chad is right. Well, you're a smart man for that. I think Chad is right. When students come in and only want to draw what they're good at, then they can't grow. And this is why you guys have student learn fundamentals and things people don't normally do. It's easy to fill a sketchbook with things you're good at, and those people become complacent. That is exactly right. And that is one of the biggest pushbacks that I'll get in class is that, if so many times this happens. Someone will take a drawing 101 class, particularly in teenagers. They'll come in
Yes.
for a drawing 101 class, and all they draw is anime or comic book or cartoon characters, which is great. I have no problem with that. But when you go in to talk about, let's shade something or talk about perspective or form and that kind of thing, there's tends to be a lot of pushback, or tends to be a lot of hesitation, or just kind of dragging their feet a little bit because it's something they don't want to do. But it's exactly to that point. They're not used to doing it, and it's hard. But what they don't remember is that drawing figures and cartoons was hard at one point, but you enjoy doing it, and you've done it so much now that it's natural. And so the same thing has to happen with realism. So yeah, you're exactly right, Matt. I appreciate it.
I think, obviously, having been a coach and we have a number of students who are artist athletes here at VAAS, which I'm always incredibly grateful for. It's no different than a lot of other, what am I trying to say? Areas of mastery, I guess, if that's a good way to put it. Like, I mean, we go back on the things that we know, Chad, but you worked in the food industry for a long time. How many
Mhm.
times did you have to practice something before you got it right? How many times did you make a dish? Or how many times did you, let me go even further than that. How many times did you have to practice getting flavors or taste or spices or something before you could then do the dish? right? Like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, there's so many things that you had to do prior to it. Think about it, athletes. How many drills do you do before you actually can execute? Musicians, you have to learn your scales, right, before you actually can play the instrument. So, I mean, I just think that there's this misconception with art that I'm just going to draw these things and nothing else matters. And we don't see that in other areas of high level execution, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the most immediate one I can think of is when I worked at the Brown Hotel. You know, one of the things I had to learn that it took several rounds of doing was cooking scallops, which are actually very difficult to cook correctly, and cooking duck. And yeah, I ruined many a duck, which is a very expensive mistake. And yeah, so um, yeah, it's exactly what you said. And the only way to learn that is you've got to learn the fundamentals. You've got to know how to saute other things before you move on to duck or grilling a fillet or whatever it is, because you know, especially in that industry, those are very expensive mistakes. So they're a little more hesitant just to hand those off to anyone. But yeah, a little practice and guidance and supervision, and you know, you eventually get it right. But if you don't ever practice that, then you'll never learn that skill. So yep.
Well, it's
Same with
just like
drawing.
it's just like with my daughter the other day, who's doing very well in soccer. Well, we went out to practice, and I started out with passing drills, right? Just doing passing drills, and she's like, "No, I'm going to play against each other." I said, "Well, we will, but we have to practice this first to get to that."
Yep.
And you and I approach a lot of those things in our very academically oriented, art classes, because ultimately those are the building blocks. You and I get asked all the time, what classes, if you're starting out or if you're trying to really get better, what class should you take? And what do we almost always say, Chad? What do we almost always say?
Usually drawing 101.
Usually drawing 101, because it's going to foundationally give you those building blocks a lot more successfully. Now, do we have some people that come in that have just natural gift and talent to replicate what they see? Yes, but also knowing what you're doing and the foundational elements of that, then you understand how you're succeeding and why you're succeeding at the level that you are, right? Rather than just instinct.
Yeah, and even those students that are naturally gifted at those things, they need to work on some stuff too. So, you know, you can always, no matter where you are, there's always something more to learn. What is your famous saying?
Ancora imparo.
There it is. Always learning. That's right.
That's right.
There's Deep Pixel Art says hello.
Oh, hey, Deep Pixel Art. How are you? Hope you're doing well. Good to see you back. We missed you last session. Oh, I will apologize, guys and gals and everybody. I've got the sniffles today, so I'm so sorry if it's coming through on that microphone. I don't mean to be rude, but I do have the sniffles. So if you see me step off camera, I'm probably grabbing a tissue, and I am sorry for that. It's been a week. I have not been feeling perfect, and actually, Chad, I had to cancel a session last night, and I'm so terribly sorry, Jared. If you're watching, buddy, sorry about that. We'll get you in the studio, and we'll get you creating and painting soon. It's amazing to see your growth, and I'm so sorry that I had to reschedule that there, bud. It's one of the worst feelings in the world, Chad, is when you're just not feeling great, and you're like, man, I want to make sure this person gets in and creates, but perhaps we can do it another time,
Yep. Well, you don't want to get them sick too, so
100%. Well, and I just want to make sure, our students have the best possible experience they can. And if I'm not, I'm pretty high energy, and if I don't have my energy going into it, it's not going to be the best result. Here's a fun one for you, Chad.
okay.
I don't know if, and I actually, and this sounds horrible, but I did not watch a ton of King of the Hill growing up.
Yeah, neither did I.
But I will tell you that I have watched the newest season, and it's really good.
Yeah.
It's really good. I was blown away. I mean, I had watched a few of the episodes, originally, and I had enjoyed them, but I wasn't like a diehard fan. But I will tell you that new season's pretty well written, pretty well executed, And I thought it was pretty good, actually. So if you're a big fan and you haven't seen it yet, go take a watch. Let us know what you think. But I should put this in the comments too, if I can. I'll figure out how a way to do it. The movie that we were talking about before is called Red, and it's with Alfred Molina. And you should absolutely watch it. It's about Rothko and his painting, his mural series that he was painting for a restaurant. And it's unbelievably well acted. It's a 2-person play. And I literally have not stopped thinking about it, Chad. I'm like, I need to watch this again. And
Yeah.
I just think it was absolutely brilliant. It was very, very good. It's fictional, but it's awesome from an artistic standpoint.
And wasn't the guy that played Rothko, wasn't that the actor that played Doc Ock in Spider-Man?
Yes, and
At
Diego
least,
Rivera.
yeah.
Yeah,
He
so
also
he's played
played
2 prolific artists now.
he also played Diego Rivera in the Frida Kahlo movie.
Yep.
I think that was him. But
The 100. Yes,
yeah.
it was. Yes, he is a brilliant actor. But I'm a big fan of the stage. Like I love theater, and it was so well executed that they filmed a version of it that you can watch online. And I think it's absolutely amazing. It's about, there's a lot of that relationship between master and mentor, and the desire to be avant-garde, but yet to be true to yourself.
Mhm.
And I just thought it was really, really, really great. And if you have any art history, which my wife knows a little bit of art history, but she's not a huge, she didn't study the way that I did. She didn't know that Rothko had ultimately committed suicide, and you don't see that in the play, but there's hints of it. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, so well written. It's just these little nudges and all these things, and it was just incredibly well executed. That's really all. I guess I could keep elaborating on it, but I'm letting people know, because if you're an artist, this is intriguing, and some of you may find it motivating. So give it a watch. It's really powerful. It was very good. Eddie Redmayne originally played the apprentice role, and I can't think of the other gentleman's name. And by gosh, I should, but he was exceptional as well. And he was one of the young gentlemen that played in Harry Potter. But he was brilliant. They were both very well executed roles. Dun, dun, dun. Oh man, Deep Pixel Art says it's 1 a.m. his time. Well, thank you for staying up and hanging out with us. Goodness gracious. That's amazing. And no worries. We understand sleep is important. But are we glad that you're sticking around, staying up with us, and engaging with us? We appreciate it. I had the next 2 or 3 paintings planned out, Chad, that I was going to try to execute. And then I recently took 2 new pictures and references, and now I'm like, I want to do those. So I have bought a new canvas. I have it prepped. I'm going to start building that one out to have multiple paintings in different stages. But now I'm torn because I have 3 different paintings I want to do all at the same time, and I don't know which one to do.
Do all of them.
I know. Oh gosh, that's why I love you. You're like, just paint more.
Yeah.
Forget everything else. Just paint.
Just do it.
It was really neat at one of our local schools here, Height Elementary School, who we are right down the road from. A lot of the parents got super engaged by the Grisaille painting process. And I was just so excited that, I mean, at one point, Chad, we had about 30 parents and some younger students circled around our little table in our booth and the painting, and they were just letting me kind of almost lecture, if you will, about the painting, and they were asking questions and engaging, and I'm sitting there going, man, this is fun.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a blast. It was great. Art is fun. This coming week starts our next round of classes. You getting geared up, Chad? You feeling pretty good?
Yeah, I'm excited. I always look forward to a new round of classes because it gives me the opportunity to get a bit better as a teacher and make some changes and improve. So I look forward to trying out some new things with the students and seeing how they go. And yeah, looking forward to it.
I think it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful round of courses. And if you haven't signed up yet, guys, there's still time. Make sure you go and check out VAASLouisville.com. Check out what we're offering. I know some of you guys are not local, and I apologize for that. We are continuing to build out and work on some digital assets for everybody to have, some digital classes. So hopefully we'll continue to work on that. But if you are local and you want to get in here and create in the studio with us, explore the arts, develop your skills, and create in the studio, make sure you go online, take a look at the class offerings this semester and get registered.
So Deep Pixel Art says, and this looks like a question for you, how do you balance storytelling and painting in your work?
Oh, interesting. I think some of it depends on what I'm painting and what my goal is of said painting, because there are often times where the storytelling is somewhat limited, if you will. It's secondary for some reasons. Like sometimes it's a piece about execution or technique. But most of what I do, there is no balance of story and painting, right? They are so intertwined and so connected that it's not really a balance. It is what it is. My paintings are stories, right, Chad? Like the drawings are stories. The work is the story. Sometimes the stories are more elaborate. Sometimes the stories are more thorough or fleshed out or lengthy, if you will, as far as that. Like this, there's this piece that I'm painting on now is more of a story. It's a scene, right? It's a scene from a moment in time and life. Whereas others, it could just simply be, whatever. But for me, the story of the work is one of the most important things, whether it's my comics, my drawings, whether it's the paintings, the story is what I want to be prominent. And so I hope that comes through. So really, I know it sounds silly, but there isn't really a balance because to me, they are, I don't know, Chad, how would you say that? Where it's, they're inseparable. And so there isn't really a balance between just quote unquote painting and story. The painting is the story. There is so much to it that you can't separate it. It is fully there. If there's not a story in it, I just don't know if there's a ton of substance for me. So I like having the story there.
Yeah, I like that.
We go, okay, let's see here. Matt goes, you stronger at imaginary or technical skills? Ooh. Oh, Stabby's back. Stabby, great to see you. Man, it's been some time. We hope you're doing great. How wonderful it is to see you. That's amazing. But I am going to dive in on this with Matt here. When you're stronger at imaginary or technical skills, yes, I think the technical skills matter, right? Obviously, the technical skills matter to be able to execute at a certain level. But I've seen people, Chad, with incredible technical skill, but the piece just doesn't have any substance to it, right? It's yes, I have rendered a glass jar well. Beautiful. Technical skill is amazing. It's kind of like you and I talk a lot about people who do photorealism. The skill is amazing, exceptional. But the replication and the reproduction is one aspect, right? To me, it's where can you go next with it? And I think that's where, modern, contemporary, I shouldn't say modern because modern's a movement, but contemporary art has gone off the rails because it's no longer about technical execution. It's all about this philosophical concept and idea. And yes, those are great. Yes, those are wonderful. Yes, you should have something in there. But I think that technical skill and, narrative are what really make things unique, right? And just the idea of just, jumping off a trampoline, dragging a marker along a wall. That's not technical execution. There is no technical execution there. Yeah. Maybe conceptually it's got a strong point, but technically there isn't much to go off of. So I think that's, to Matt's point, that's more of the balance, right? If that makes sense for everybody watching that. That's more of the balance that I think goes with it. Oh, and Stabby says, I'm doing awesome. Hope you guys are as well. We are doing fantastic, Stabby, and it is so great that you're back. Chad and I have been doing a ton of work, and Stabby, if you didn't know, because I don't think you do, Chad is working on book 3 of his graphic novel series, The Silence. And so you've missed out on quite a bit, Stabby. We hope you come back and join us again because Chad's literally working from beginning to end on book 3 of The Silence. And it's absolutely spectacular to watch it. He just finished, Chad, you might want to show Stabby here in a minute. But he just finished the inks. Look at this. Oh, let me take that full. Let me take that full. That's just so gorgeous. Give me 1 second, Chad. Stabby, take a look at this. So he just finished the inks on that page. It's absolutely gorgeous. And we're seeing him now build out the beginning drawing of the next page. And so you're going to get to watch him build this out from beginning to end, which I just think is so rare, so unique, super awesome. Yeah, I agree. They say it's super clean. Yes, it is. It's beautiful. But I also just think it's a great thing to get to see it and have fun with it. And so, Stabby, I hope you're enjoying this. We've all been super excited. And then, of course, I'm working on, Chad, you brought this up last time, my 3rd painting since we started doing the live streams. Mm-hmm. And so, I feel like I'm booking along and doing pretty well.
Yeah. So I'm to that point where I can't quite get where I want. So I'm going to do some, we do them in our character design class where we'll do character rotations. So that's what I'm going to do on this spaceship. I'm going to draw a side view, a top view, and then a 3/4 view. And then that will help me get kind of a spatial arrangement in my head, what this looks like. And then I can do a more extreme perspective that I'm trying to do in this. So that'll, puts me back a little bit because I'm adding some drawings just to get this page right, but I really want to get the page right. So I think doing this will really help too for future, because this is not the last time you'll see this spaceship. So I think, I think this will help long term for me to do this kind of thing. And this will be good sketchbook stuff for the, because in the back of the volume, I usually put in a sketchbook of, various sketches and concept drawings. And so it'll be in the novel at the end. So it's a win-win for me. So that's what I'm going to transition now to working on a side view of this spaceship. And then hopefully this week I'll get to more some different angles, and maybe I'll get back to the page next week. But I'm kind of at the end of I played around with it so much, it's starting to look like my first attempt where it's getting really muddy. So I'm realizing I don't have a good spatial understanding of the spaceship right now. So I'm going to work on that now.
I think that's healthy. I remember when I first created my characters called the Eppies, Chad, they lived in these like almost weaver bird homes. I don't know if you're familiar with them. And I was struggling figuring it out. And one of my professors made this great suggestion of building one. And so I actually built this model, this maquette of their homes. And I'm sitting there going, I fully understand it now. It's like sculpture, right? Drawing in 3D, right? Drawing in 3 dimensions. And so if you're ever stuck out there, guys, sometimes maybe build it out or get some blocks or get some cardboard or something, and just kind of mess around with it and see if that can help you figure out the 3-dimensional aspect of it, because now you can rotate it, feel it in your hands. I mean, you're not really going to be able to do that much with the spaceship, but you know what I mean? If we
Yeah.
had unlimited budgets, or if we were a production team on a movie or something, you would, so if the silence ever becomes, a movie, you'll be able to have all these maquettes and models and everything, Chad, and you'll be like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, now I know I can see it and draw it from every angle possible.
Yeah.
We got a couple of great questions here. I'm going to go back to, Deep Pixel Art. They're asking, how did you develop your painting style, especially with the Grisaille? Well, I think I've always been very much influenced, Chad and I have talked about this a lot, by drawing. Color was always intimidating for me for a number of years growing up as a young artist, and it was very scary. And so I felt very, very comfortable in grayscale. And I have always been adamant, Deep Pixel Art, about controlling your values. I think values are one of the most big, important things that we can work on. And a lot of times paintings flatten out, or the chroma takes over and you lose, the value and the contrast, and things just don't, have the depth that you're looking for, the chiaroscuro or the sfumato. And so I had painted, and I've painted many times and for a long time, and I had actually learned about it from Alvarez, a mentor and a professor that I had a long time ago. And I had messed around with it a few times, and then I found my way back to oil painting, and I did a painting series called My Old Kentucky Home, which was really a remembrance series about my grandmother. And it was a series about 32 pieces of me leaving my hometown and how I experienced my hometown as a young man versus when I came back over 10 years later. And I saw it very much in black and white, if that makes sense. I saw the city and my hometown from a 17-year-old's perspective versus a grown man's perspective who's traveled and been around and done a whole bunch of different things. And so to me, this series about Kentucky was very much black and white. So I decided to paint it in black and white. And I realized that I could control my values significantly better. And I had remembered the Grisaille process. And I said, you know what? I'm going to dive back into the Grisaille process, control my values, work on my glazes. And I've really enjoyed it. I've really had a lot of fun with it. And then also, too, I realized that teaching my oil painting classes out of VAAS, a lot of my students needed to focus on value control. And I realized that the Grisaille painting technique was a great way to get them to understand that they have to control their values before honing in on chroma and letting the chroma or the color dictate the whole painting. And so I've been teaching it now in all of our oil painting classes since we've opened, and it's gone, I think, very, very well, Chad, I think. And I have fallen in love with it. I have absolutely fallen in love with the idea of being able to control these values to this extent. And I think I'm going to continue to do it for a while. So that's kind of how it kind of came to be. It was founded in drawing with graphite, moved forward into being able to control my values. And then also the glazing process and teaching. It has just kind of been a perfect fit for me creatively. And I've really enjoyed it. And I think I'm going to stick with it for a while. It gives this very earthy. Now, granted, I switch. I don't use a traditional black. I use raw umber and titanium white. So I'm not using black. It's not true gray. It's actually browns. And it makes things very grounded, very earthy. And I absolutely love it. And especially with the yellow ochre or raw sienna underpainting, it's becoming my favorite. So long story shorter, the long answer is, right, Chad?
That's right.
We also have a great comment here from Stabby. I'm going to put this one up here for you, Chad. I love how you let the piece breathe, not over detailing, awesome contrast. I would agree.
I think she's talking about you.
Oh, I thought it was about yours. I thought it was about your black and white inks.
Oh man, I don't know. Let's just say we're complimenting both of us. How about that?
Perhaps so. I don't know. Maybe let's see. We've actually got another one here.
it.
It's actually so much better to start out doing grayscale. I know for me as a digital artist, a big tip artists will give me is turning your art into grayscale. It makes it somewhat easier to tell if it's lacking contrast or not. I agree, Stabby. So that's kind of the same concept, right? Is making sure that you're controlling your darkest darks and your lightest lights so that your piece reads well. And if in Chad, actually, if you don't mind pulling back your ink, this is a good example. I want to talk through this. This is a great example here and of what Stabby is talking about. Chad, and you actually, I think it was 3 or 4 episodes ago, Chad, you actually went into this, and please feel free to do so, where using the blacks and the solid whites really creates that dynamic, engaging contrast. But if you look at the bottom left-hand side, those really nice lines create grays, and all the fine details create such a well-balanced page, right, Stabby? And so even though there's a lot of darks and lights and blocks of value, it reads very, very well. And if Chad doesn't do a good job of that, the piece becomes muddy, right? The quote unquote muddy. Things get lost. It doesn't read as a dynamic spaceship. It doesn't go into something that's readable. It just becomes a mess. And so he's able to control that contrast. Same thing you're talking about with digital. Same thing I'm talking about with the Grisaille. It allows us to understand value, contrast, focal points, and I just think it's a great way to execute. So very cool. Awesome. Thanks for that. See, I was right. See, the first comment was about the spaceship.
Yeah, you're right.
But applies to both. Thank you, Stabby.
Yeah, thank you, Stabby. I will take it. So yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, and to both of your all's points, like I've often talked about using patterns or textures as a way to create a gray in the middle. You'll see that also in like a lot of really, really good like professional comic book work when they do their inking. They'll do a lot of like, it's almost like scribbles. It's like these little details and it's really hard to do so it looks natural. But they'll go in and they'll just put random lines that makes so much sense, but it gives it kind of that gray feel to it because pen is so like obviously black and white. You've got to use mark making to create those grays. And if there's very few artists that can do the black and white really well. One of them, I would argue, even though he's not my favorite artist, is Frank Miller. In the way he controlled black and white and used contrast, he's definitely a master at that. Yeah, and so just my whole point being that one of the things I learned early on, and I learned this from How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. There's a section in there on inking, and it makes the point if you put too much detail in there, it gets lost, and so you can't really see what you're looking at. And so I like to put a ton of detail in my drawings, but I'm very intentional with where I put the detail because I want your eye to gravitate towards certain places. And if you put too much detail, then it gets lost. And so one of the funny stories I often tell people is that my wife is a good like kind of lowest common denominator, and that's not a shot at her. It's just she's not an artist, and she doesn't she's not a fan of comic books or anything like that. So when I show her something, I get a fresh eye, which is nice. So I'll show her something, I say, hey, what do you see here? I won't tell her what it is or anything like that. I just want to see, and I can tell if there's too much detail. She will literally say something to the effect of, oh, I see a horse over here, look at this, and there will not be a horse in the drawing at all. Because what she's seeing are the forms. She's not able to recognize what's actually in the picture. So it's painful, but it's really helpful to give someone like that a look. So if they can read it, as far as not necessarily words, but they can read the picture and the composition and the tone scale and all that, then you have a successful piece. Yeah, because your audience isn't necessarily comic book fans or fine art fans or whoever it is. It's the average person. You want to make sure that they can get it, and otherwise your art.
You stare at it. Sorry, you stare at it so much that you don't get a true vision of it.
Yeah, 100%. That's why I like to, when I draw something, I like to put it away for a little while and then come back to it. Just because you're exactly right. When you're looking at something for so long, you lose the objectivity. And there's been drawings where I haven't seen for years, and I'll pull them back out, and I'll either be pleasantly surprised or the other way, or like, oh my gosh, what was I doing there? Because at the time I thought it was great, but with the years of experience, obviously improved, but also you can't see objectively. So it is really helpful to show someone else that's not really into the same art as you are to see what they see, to make sure you're communicating accurately. That's really helpful. But to the original point, yeah, I always say that details make the unreal seem real. And so, especially in sci-fi work, when you're putting in a lot of detail, it gives the illusion that this could be a real thing. But over too much detail, then you lose what you're drawing, and it becomes all just confusing. So
Yep.
it's a delicate balance.
I agree with that. And we were talking about like people who ink. One of the people I always loved that I thought did inking very uniquely was Sam Keith,
Yeah,
the comic book creator Max,
yeah,
and he's done other things. I think his inking is just, absolutely unique and powerful and very different, right? You're talking about those different mark makings and some of those scratches and things like that. I always felt Sam Keith was brilliant at that.
yep.
We've got a great question here. And I think it's maybe for you or maybe for both of us. From Stabby, they say, who is your favorite comic book creator? And Chad, I know we've talked about yours a couple times. We've talked about a little bit of mine. I've got 2 or 3 that really stand out to me, but why don't you, if you want, why don't you take that one or throw it back my way and I'll go first. Either way.
Yeah, I've got a couple. I mean, one of my originals that I liked when I first got into comic books was Jim Lee, just because his control of anatomy and composition, and he has a very dynamic drawing style. I've been critical of him from time to time, which is like a little scary because he is so good, but at the same time, like he was my number one. He's not quite my number one anymore, but he's definitely up there. I think my number one is probably Jeremy Opeña,
Mm-hmm.
just because of his storytelling and composition. And just when I look at his comic books, like he did a Seven to Eternity, which I've not actually read, but I have looked at every page and every panel and studied it. The way he handles composition is like watching a movie. I mean, he just has a way of arranging each panel that makes storytelling just so dynamic and fresh. I would definitely say he's my number one. And then beyond that, I mean, there's a whole handful of people.
Yeah.
It's they're all wrestling for the number third spot, I think. But I don't know who I would put up there. Obviously, people like Mark Silvestri and Tom
Oh, yeah.
McFarlane and all those guys were just incredibly amazing to me. So I'm just gonna stick with Jeremy Opeña as my favorite at this point.
I'm there with Chad. It's almost too hard because we talk a lot about how some of the comics kind of feel the same, right? Like there hasn't been a huge new movement in a while of creativity, but some of the people that, were really powerful to me, like I love the Kubert brothers, right? Andy and Adam Kubert.
Mhm.
They were huge for me. Obviously Jim Lee, I love, I also was big on the cartoon side of comics, right? So for me, Bill Watterson was massive. Obviously
Mhm.
Charles Schultz, the simplicity of it all, but Bill Watterson was absolutely amazing. There's just almost too many to really count. And if we went into a library here at the Academy, you'd see so many of them. But I also really, really loved Sam Keith was huge for me, very different, right? His run on the Max was amazing. David Mack, obviously, as we joke about a lot, but really he was very influential with me. His Daredevil run of Echo was huge influence on me. His Kabuki series, I had never read anything like Kabuki before. And there was there's different types of the series of Kabuki. If you're familiar with them, he does his run of black and white, very traditional, but then he does his collage style work. And that's
Yeah.
really what I think made him so amazing was that he was doing things in, childlike drawings and collage and watercolor and pastels and inks that nobody had really done before. And then of course you go to the master painter himself, right? If you go to Alex Ross, I was
Yeah.
absolutely blown away by seeing Alex's Ross work on Kingdom Come and other things. And it's amazing to me, but there's so many, like, one of the bigger influences for me for a number of years was Frank Cho. If you've ever seen that,
Yeah.
Frank Cho's amazing. And so there's just a lot. And I think that's the beauty of the comic book world is there's a lot of work out there that you can attach yourself to and really get inspired by. And recently, one of my favorite artists that I get to follow pretty closely is this amazing artist named Chad Nuss, who is a
Uh,
relatively unknown in the world of mainstream comics. But brilliant execution, beautiful work, and has been very inspiring to me, and hopefully all of you out there as well.
That is very sweet of you.
Let's see here. We've got a couple other. Let's go back. Oh, this is a good one for you, Chad. I like this one a lot. Oh, here we go. Okay. What's your favorite way to relax after a long day of drawing? I don't actually know this about you, good sir. I should know this. I feel like this is something I should know.
Yeah.
So I'm getting ready to learn something new about our master draftsman and our humble wizard right along with you guys. Here we go. Let's see what he's got.
Okay. Well, first I would say long days of drawing are rare just because I have 4 teenagers in school and all that kind of stuff. So my day gets blocked into chunks quite a bit, between getting kids to and from school and activities and that kind of thing. But from time to time, I will get a whole day of drawing. I had one recently where I drew literally from, I think it was about 8 a.m. till about 4 or 5 in the afternoon, and it was pretty steady drawing. And that was a great day. I was doing a charcoal drawing, and charcoal is my favorite. I mean, I do love, and we've talked about this before, I do love doing what I'm doing right now, but I think charcoal is definitely my absolute favorite. So I can get lost in a charcoal drawing all day pretty easily. But yeah, so to answer your question, usually my brain is spent at that point. So my favorite thing to do is to play Call of Duty and just let my brain just shut off and play a little Call of Duty on the PlayStation. That's it. Hold on. You muted yourself. Somehow you're muted. Yeah, it says you're there. You go.
How's that? Now can you hear me?
There you go. Yep.
I said I did know that you like to play Call of Duty, but I did not know that would be kind of the break. But it makes sense because it's just a whole different escape, right? Like, I think for both of us, drawing is kind of an escape, right? But gaming and stuff like that is a different kind of escape.
Yep. Yeah, I've tried to get into different games, but I'm not a huge gamer. I've got a few games, like I played like Assassin's Creed and Elden Ring and all that, but I go back to Call of Duty just because I like the getting on doing battle royale like online, sometimes with friends or just getting in there with people you don't know. And it's funny because my call sign or my name is the Silent Knight. And I usually mute everyone so I can't hear anyone and I don't talk. So it kind of goes in with my character and just get in there and play. And I like they did a battle royale casual, which I really like that because they put a lot of bots in there so you can actually kill some people, which is nice and it gives you a feel of accomplishment. When you get in the regular thing, there's kids on there that play like 12 hours a day and they'll shoot you like across, a couple miles away, like one shots, and it's just like crazy. So I don't have any fun with that. But the casual I really like because you can get in there and play for a while. It's nice. But yeah, just mindless entertainment after a long session. That's what Matt said, and that's exactly. I sit there and I think, reading a book, for example, it's hard. That takes a lot of brain work, or writing or doing chores or something. All that stuff just takes a lot of effort. And if I've already spent myself on something, then just some mindless entertainment, maybe watching a movie or something. But typically my go-to is to play Call of Duty. That just lets me wind down. So
that's fantastic.
What about you, Seth? What do you do?
Oh, a number of things, I guess. But I like to be physically active. And so any chance I get to do that, it's a nice break from like the mental strain. And I know you run and do that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah.
I do really enjoy. So like tonight, I'm not feeling well, so probably not tonight. But I do like to go and sit and have a nice cigar or tobacco pipe. And I used to really, really enjoy a tobacco pipe because it's a process, right? It takes time to load the pipe, reignite the pipe. It's very aromatic. It forces me typically to be, I like to be outside, which I enjoy being outside. And it's a good way for me to just kind of sit. Sometimes I'll just sit in nature and just let the sounds kind of envelop me. Other times I will put on some music and kind of let the music engage with me, if you will, while the aromatic of the cigar or the pipe kind of, infuse. I also, this sounds crazy, but I also really, really enjoy just sitting. And this is going to sound hokey, and I promise it's not. But I also really just enjoy sitting in the same space as my wife. Like there is an immense amount of relaxation and comfort that is there for me when I'm in the same space as her, because we're constantly going, Chad, because of the academy and because of kids. I mean, you've got 4 kids, I've got 3, and you're going and going and going and going. And so for me, to the question of, how do you do it after a big day of drawing or painting? I like sitting down in that space, and that's a comfort zone for me. So I think, between, either having a nice bourbon and cigar, or just a cigar or pipe or something like that outside in nature, because a lot of times my paintings and drawing are done where, Chad? I don't do a lot of plein air. So I'm
Yeah,
inside, right? So
you're
I like to sit
inside. Yeah.
outside. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like to get outside and experience some of that. So that's really a couple of things for me. I'm also a big gamer, but I have found that I've gotten away from gaming, Chad, simply because when I realized that I spent 60 hours in an Assassin's Creed game, I could have finished like a novel in that time frame.
Yeah.
And ultimately, the games don't matter. Which, again, if it's escapism, I get it, right? But I feel guilty because I should be doing something better with my time.
No, that's great. Yeah. I kind of justify it in my mind because I was just doing something creative. So it was like, no, I can shut my brain off for a little bit. So
Stabby says, I think you'd like fighting games like Tekken or Mortal Kombat. I used to love Tekken. Tekken used to be my bag. And Soul Calibur. If anybody's out there and you guys remember Soul
oh, I
Calibur,
remember Soul Calibur. Yeah.
yeah, with the weapon system, that was my jam. That was it. Mortal Kombat was a little violent for me, um, but I mean, I played it. Loved it. I haven't played any of the new ones though. I've got small kids, so I try to be conscious of what I'm putting in the same space as they are. Well, Chad, I'm moving and grooving on this, feeling pretty good about it. I'm making some conscious decisions here of some of these folds because, as you had talked about, I want to be conscious of what is my focal point, right? And oftentimes, I feel like rendering out folds or textures can really overpower the piece, and so I really want to be conscious of that. And so I'm going to keep working on this here for a little bit, and then I'm going to step back, take a break, analyze it from a distance. Because if you're in any of my painting classes, you'll know that I harp on my students, get away from your piece. The way that you view your piece this close, where you're working on it, is not going to be the same that you see it when you get 3, 4, 5 feet away. And in most cases, people are going to be viewing, and again, if it's just for you, that's one thing. But a lot of cases, people are going to be viewing your piece from a little bit of a distance, and you want to see how it's reading from there. And often I will find a number of things that I look at and go, oh, I don't like how that's resonating from that distance. So here in just a little bit, I'm going to step away, really take a look at this, and see how it's good going so far. How's that drawing of the ship going? Pretty good? Looks good.
Yeah, pretty good. It's helpful for me to think through where everything is. Yeah.
Challenging. Challenging indeed.
I just saw that Stabby made a comment that she liked Sean Murphy, and he did. Oh man, what there was one that he did. I think if we're talking about the same artist. I'm gonna actually Google that just to double check that we're talking about the same person. Man, I can't think of once I see it. Hold on, let me look this up real quick.
Matt says Alex Ross. I agree. Amazing. Ooh, let's see. We got a question here while you're looking that up. It says Grisaille is a challenging technique that requires a lot of patience and skill. What have been the biggest lessons you've learned from working with this style, both technically and emotionally? Technically, it's to maintain full value range. It's easy to mix same values. It's easy to mix and hover around the midtones or the light tone, the light tints, or hover around the middle values. But you really want to focus on maintaining full value range. And so I think technically that is the biggest thing: is don't become flat. The whole goal of the Grisaille is to create your values, and it's easy to flatten out your values. And when you do that, you're depleting the purpose of the Grisaille. And so from a technical standpoint, it's truly, and relatively simply to answer, maintaining full value range. Emotionally, I think it's the idea that the piece has to read well in the early stages of the Grisaille before you move into chroma. And if it doesn't read well emotionally in the values, only the values of the gray, then it's not going to read well when you put chroma on top or your glazes on top. And so it's finding that emotional stability even without color. Am I telling the right story? And that's going back to the question earlier. Is the story being communicated even without the sensitivity of color? And then the balance then becomes, okay, it's working well in gray or in just tints, tones, and shades. Now, how do I make sure I don't mess that up when I add on color and glazes, right? Because it's very easy to then let the chroma take over and dominate rather than letting the story or the emotions of the piece speak without or with color as well as without. At least that's my take. Sticking to it, Chad. Sticking to it.
I like it. Yeah, Sean Murphy did Tokyo Ghost. That's the one I was trying to remember. And Chrononauts. And Tokyo Ghost is beautiful. And yeah, I definitely like his style quite a bit. He'd be up there in my top, 5 to 10 artists for sure. I mean, I love Tokyo Ghost. That's another one that I didn't quite read, but I love the art and I bought it just to look at the art. So yeah, he would definitely be in my top group of artists for sure.
I think it's so funny how you just consume the visuals, right? On a number of occasions, you just kind of consume the visuals, but
Yeah.
that's enough for you, right? Like that's satisfying, right?
I mean, I should probably read it just to get a better study of like storytelling, but I just like looking at them.
I'm getting pretty far along here, feeling all right. I'm gonna try to wrap this part up and then step away. But I don't want to step away too early because I'm feeling it and it's connecting and I'm seeing where it's connecting. So I really got to kind of pay attention to what I'm doing here. I don't want to over blend or over mix the values here, but I want to make sure it sticks the way I want it to stick. So I think we're good there. We've got a number of students that are submitting artwork for the Kentucky State Fair, Chad. I hope that a lot of our students get some chances to win. There's some cash prizes, good exposure that comes with that. Perhaps next year you and I should submit on behalf of VAAS.
Yeah, we should.
And I think for any of you guys out there, we haven't made the final decision, but I think we're going to have an open call exhibition this holiday season. So if you're out there, even if you're not local, we're going to be hopefully accepting open submissions for artwork pretty soon, I think. Hopefully in the coming month or so, you'll see some more information about it. Don't hold me to it because we haven't made the final decision yet. But we're going to select probably 75 to 100 pieces for the gallery upstairs with some prizes and awards, primarily in a couple of different mediums. And I think it's going to be a really cool experience to kind of help celebrate our 1-year anniversary as well, Chad, which I think is exhilarating. Can you believe
Yeah,
it?
it's gonna be amazing.
A whole year.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah, it went by so fast.
When you're having fun and teaching and creating, it does. What an adventure it has been. Which leads me to, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank all of our students that have come in here. I want to thank all of our professors, our assistants, all of our patrons, people who have come in and bought artwork from the shows or the exhibitions, all of our students who have taken courses and believe in us, learn from us. It's just been such an unbelievable adventure. We're so grateful for all of you, Stabby, Matt, Deep Pixel Art, everybody over here. We've got Moby Blue, Defenestration, JMK Woody, everybody that's on here, Tom Tup, Laxmi, DC Watercolors. Man, I could just go on. Everybody that's over on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, X, Instagram. We thank you for coming along this journey with us. It's such a fun time. And not only that, as Chad and I have constantly said over and over, it's selfishly a great chance for he and I to create for a number of hours with you guys. And we just hope that you enjoyed as much as we do. And we're so grateful for all the comments, the conversation, the questions. It's such a joy. And we hope you're gaining some knowledge from it as well. I mean, I know that you're gaining knowledge and information from me, but our humble wizard over there, I don't know.
Real funny.
Which I have a surprise for you next week, good sir. I was hoping to maybe get it to you this week, but we will save it and utilize it next time.
Man, I'm excited about that.
So make sure you guys join the live stream next week so that you guys can see our humble wizard surprise. It's not humble pie, but it probably could be. No, I'm kidding. It's very exciting. I'm really excited for it. It's silly, it's stupid, but boy, do we have a good time. And I hope you guys have a good time with us as well. And hopefully you'll get a kick out of this also. Subtly blend this and then step away. Mm-hmm. Let's see what we've got. All right, time to step away.
Looks like you got a couple more comments here.
Let's see what we got. Well, I saw one pop up from Matt. Seth, I'm working on a flannel pattern dress. It's a pain to keep track of which square I'm on. However, I think about what you said last week about giving weight to folds. Yes. So one of these blankets is actually a flannel pattern as well, Matt. And I'm making, as I work it, I'm making that conscious decision of, is the flannel patterning going to be too much, right? Is it going to be too distracting from the overall piece? Because if you look at this here, and I'm going to zoom out for you. Let's see if I can move the camera a little bit. If you look at this whole piece, there is going to be a tremendous amount of textures and folds. And so I'm trying to decide whether or not that's going to be overly texturized and will it pull away from the focal points that I want to finish up with. Because if this blanket over here becomes all pattern-based, it may overconsume it. And then to your point, you have to make sure that there's weight to the blanket, weight to the folds or the material, the shirt, whatever it is, before placing on that pattern, because a lot of times that pattern will flatten out. And then you all of a sudden your folds have no weight to them, no form, no shape. And I always recommend finding those folds first, finding that weight first, Matt, right? And then putting on that texture, because then you have a stronger foundation. You're building on that foundational element. Now, everybody's different. Not saying that's the right way to do it, but a lot of times I will focus on that first and then put that texture, that pattern, whatever else it is on top So then I get the idea that this is there, right? If that makes sense. And so I'm excited you're giving yourself that challenge. That sounds like a really fun challenge. I think it's going to go well for you, knowing your talent and your skill. Make sure you send us a picture of that. I'd love to see how it turns out.
Yeah, he's shown me a few updates of the portrait that he's working on, and it is phenomenal. I mean, just he's trying to learn hyperrealism, and he's really close. I mean, what he's doing now is, I would say, it's like one step away from hyperrealism. It's super realism. I mean, it's he's been able to do some smaller studies of like some eyes, and if you didn't know it was a drawing and you first looked at it, it would look like a black and white photo. I mean, he's getting really good. So yeah, he's doing great.
Well, and what's fun about that too is, once you get that point, if you want to scale backwards, then you can modify from it. I mean, I remember learning to paint under Alvarez. How many times did we have to paint? And it's funny because, Chad, you see this in a lot of my painting classes. How many times, do I have my students paint apples or fruits or objects, right? And, it doesn't have to be hyperrealism, but they have to be able to execute at a level so that they can then backtrack and simplify backwards, right? I mean, Alvarez had me paint all kinds of stuff. And as a young man, I'm like, I'm ready to move on to the narrative, right? I'm ready to move on to the non-skill set based items. Let's move forward. But boy, having done that allows you to pick and choose a little bit more as you paint progressively, right? And so I am grateful for that. It was challenging at the time, and still is, but I'm forever grateful for that experience. And it sounds like Matt's going through that as well, and that's exhilarating, Matt. That's wonderful. Incredibly excited for this new round, this new semester of courses, offering out a couple of new classes, Chad. It's really exciting, when you have a lot of students that are asking for certain classes or projects, things like that. It's exhilarating when the community comes together and says, we're having a blast. Let's work on this. Can you teach that? It's awesome.
Yeah.
Look who it is. Good old Patricia.
Oh, look who it is.
Great to see you.
Patricia. Yes. My favorite.
I love it. She makes a good point, though, and it's not on the screen because I apologize. My brush is in my hand. But Patricia says it gives you discipline. Did it not? And I would say, yes, it did. And that's a hard thing at that stage of when Alvarez was mentoring and teaching and coaching me, because I was very disciplined in athletics at the time, but I was really wanting to move forward quickly, artistically, if that makes sense. So I don't know if I saw that he was teaching me discipline at the time, or if it was just me being frustrated with the pace. But in hindsight, you look back and go, yes, it was absolutely teaching things such as discipline and skill and just a whole bunch of a combination of things. And so, but I think wisdom, not for everybody, right, Chad? But a lot of times, years create wisdom, right? And I definitely think that Alvarez set me up for gaining some of that wisdom by the way that he taught. And we try to replicate that. I mean, we want to make sure we're having our students at a high level. We want them to succeed. We want them to have a great experience. I was just saying this to a new enrollment the other day. We want to create a positive experience with art. But most people want to see improvement in their skill set. Don't you think, Chad?
Yep.
And so a lot of times it's finding a balance between, creating a positive experience, but also making sure that they're improving. And sometimes challenges are what allow somebody to grow and improve. And so I think that, we've talked about it at length. Sometimes getting students to do things they don't necessarily want to do is a healthy thing. You know what's not healthy, Chad?
What's that?
When I don't clean my brush well enough and do not get the pigment that I want.
Why'd you do that?
I don't know. Because I was not thinking at the time. But just like many things, fixable. Beautiful. There we go. And there we are. Very nice. I am going to blow my nose. I apologize. So I'm going to mute myself just that way you guys don't hear the trumpet of a nose that I have. And if you ever ask my kids, it really does sound like a trumpet. So I'm going to mute for 1 second. Apologies, everybody.
Now I'm in control. I'm in charge. Ha 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 ha. I can talk about whatever I want. Let's see. What should I say about Seth? Now that he's blown his nose, now the real truth comes out. How I really
didn't mute
feel.
the speakers.
Oh,
I only
there you
muted my microphone. I didn't mute the speakers. I muted the microphone. Thanks, bud. Jeez. Goodness gracious.
Just kidding.
Always seeking those opportunities for a good jab.
That's right. Makes life interesting.
It does. And we're supposed to be having fun. So maybe I should have blown my nose on Mike. We might get a few more followers going, that's unique. I've never heard anything like that. Oh. Something I get asked quite a bit. Everybody asks a lot of times, what is this? This is a maul stick. And so you're going to see me utilize this actually really, really well here. Is I'm going to place the maul stick in an area of unpainted work, and then I'm going to rest my hand on top of it. And that allows me not to have to put my hand onto any of the finished painting or the wet painting. It also creates a stable structure for me to place my hand. And it's just an all-around phenomenal tool. Now, the very first maul stick I used was actually just a dowel rod, I think from like Michael's or a craft store somewhere, and just a whole wad of paper towel and painter's tape. And I actually made another one of that not too long ago here for the Academy. It's still here at the Academy. And sometimes I actually prefer that one over this fancy schmancy leather wrapped one. And so if you have not used a maul stick, maybe make yourself a maul stick. It's a great way to steady your hand. It's also a great way to not put your hand in wet paint. It's really a great tool. So go get yourself a maul stick. If you're looking at MAHL, and it's a great tool for painters or just artists in general.
Yeah, it's helpful if you're working on larger drawings, and if you're left-handed, because left-handed you always have your hand on the paper, and it's easy to smudge. So on a larger drawing, maul stick is really helpful, especially when you're working in charcoal.
Well, yes, because charcoal continues to move until even when you spray fix it. So
I've yet to been able to find a fixative that makes charcoal not move at all. It's still it still moves a bit if you smudge it. So
all right, we're getting there. We're moving and grooving. Oh, we got we got a couple things. Let's go with Stabby here. Stabby, I like this. Random question, but what's your favorite band, if you have any? Music. We actually, man, Stabby, you've missed out on so much. Boy, have we missed you. We had a conversation, Chad, maybe 4 or 5 episodes ago, talking about music and movies as influencers or motivators, inspiration, if you will, for artists. And music, Stabby, is really an absolute great one. Chad, do you have a favorite band? This is hard for me. This is like books, artists, movies. I
Yeah.
usually have a list of top 10 to 5. I don't always have one favorite because it's usually about my mood or the energy that I have or the moment that I'm in.
Yeah.
But do you have a couple of favorite bands maybe that Stabby might be amazed by?
Yeah, I think my number one, and when I say this is my favorite, I'm not like a super fan. So if you ask me questions about them, I'm only going to know a little bit. Like I don't have the lyrics memorized or anything like
Right.
that. So I'm 49. I'm not 16 anymore. So that's no offense to any 49-year-olds that their favorite band is their life, but it isn't for me. I just like their music. My
Absolutely.
favorite, I think, would definitely be Radiohead.
Oh,
Just
yes.
because so many of their songs are so atmospheric and they tell a story. Like OK Computer is one of my favorite albums of all
Oh,
time,
yeah.
just because when it came out, I was in a pretty dark place already, and that came out, and it was a dystopian novel put to music, basically. And I love the sound of it and the feel of it. I still listen to it to this day. I mean, it's like what, 20 years old now, and yeah, I'll get it out. I'll still listen to it. I love the feel of it and the sound of it. And most of their music, like I really like Kid A.
Yes.
Even though it's pretty abstract as far as an album, I just love some of the songs on there are just so, once again, atmospheric, emotional. Yeah, there's a couple, of course. Now my mind is going blank on the other albums. I see one of them. It's got a red cover, and either way, there's another album I really like to listen to a lot. But sometimes I'll just put it on random on radio, just Radiohead, and it'll play through. I like Radiohead, and then I think my second might be not of all time, but in that same genre, I really love Smashing Pumpkins too.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I know there's other people, like when I go for a run, I like to listen to soundtrack, or if I'm drawing, I like to listen to soundtracks.
For me.
Um,
Yeah.
but those are typically the ones I'll go to are soundtracks. I do like 90s rap. I know that probably throws everyone. So I love Tribe Called Quest is one of my favorite hip hop bands ever. Diggable Planets, I love them. De La Soul, I really love them. Karos One, all those old school, I really love. So I'll listen to them, or I'll listen to 90s grunge. So yeah, I love, like I said, Radiohead, Smashing Pumpkins. One of my students um, was recently listening to Hole, and I had
Oh,
totally
wow.
forgot about them or her. Well, it's them; it's a whole band, but I totally forgot about them. So I really got back into them for a little while. I've been listening to them. I love Nirvana. I can't
Yeah.
even believe I haven't mentioned Nirvana. Nirvana, I would probably put up there with Radiohead. So yeah, so those would be my favorites.
See, all of those are phenomenal. I'm going to throw a couple more out there that were wildly influential for me. Obviously, I was a huge fan of Linkin Park,
Oh yeah,
especially the first 2 albums, Hybrid Theory and Meteora. Were
yeah,
just well, I mean, they were the soundtrack to my art school experience. So obviously, there's sentimental value there for me. But
yeah,
I was a huge fan of Metallica. Metallica is probably one of my favorites. Pearl Jam was huge. Eddie Vedder, Pearl Jam was
yeah,
massive. I was a huge Korn fan for a couple of their albums. I mean, Follow the Leader. Who didn't listen to Follow the Leader? I absolutely loved it. Gosh, but right now it's funny. I've aged dramatically, but there's a guy that my wife and I actually saw live, and absolutely love his stuff. And I'm not a big fan of country or twang or anything like that. Not saying it's bad. Not saying it's bad, but I absolutely love his stuff. His name is Steven Wilson Jr., and I absolutely love it. He's amazing. He's a good storyteller. I love it. But I was so, I talk about this all the time, and I know we talk a lot about art, but I truly feel, Chat, that the early '90s was one of the most powerful moments in music uh, combinations, if you will.
hmm,
Because, let me explain, because in the early 90s, you still had bands producing music and artists producing music that had made music in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
I mean, you still had people creating music, right? That, were still doing it. I mean, some of the classic individuals were still doing it. But then you had the hair bands, that were becoming very prolific coming out of disco, right? You still had the Bee Gees, you still had all this stuff, but you had the hair bands, and then heavy metal started coming out, right? We just lost Ozzy, but I mean, all of that heavy metal, and then the grunge movement, but then you had rap and hip hop, and then you had electronic, and nobody even talked about Moby yet. Like Moby's Play album was huge for me. I mean, that was massive. I had never heard anything like Moby before. And so you had electronica music. You still had, all the great rock bands, Aerosmith. You had Meatloaf, for Pete's sake. I just introduced my wife to Meatloaf, and she's like, "What is this?" And I'm like,
No.
She,
I can't do Meatloaf.
well, but this doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, you're right. It doesn't make sense. This song should not have been as popular as it was.
No, I
in
have
1995.
No idea.
You know what I mean?
Don't understand.
Like, why is this still? But that brings me to my point, right? Which was the early and mid 90s was this plethora of such musical diversity, right? Like, I mean, you had, 40, 50 years worth of music kind of coming together and creating all these different things. And I mean, Van Halen and Guns N' Roses, Enigma, I mean, you also had the big punk rock movement, right? I mean, and stuff. So I just feel like it was huge. And then, of course, we're artists, we're visual individuals. It was a big time because at that time frame, music videos had become so popular in the late 80s, early 90s. And music videos became a form of artwork in itself, right, Chad? It became, in some cases more prominent than even the music itself. But yeah, Matt keeps saying things like Green Day. I mean, Green Day was huge,
Yep.
And so all of these bands were very heavily influential on me. And Stabby, Stabby agrees with me for once. Thank you, Stabby. That Linkin Park is in my top 5 great taste for me as well. And they've gone through a lot of changes and iterations. Obviously, fun fact for you guys: Chester passed away on my birthday, which was horrible. And so July 20th will be forever remembered for the day that Chester passed instead of the day that I was given life. That's cool. It's whatever. He's a little bit more popular than I am. That's fine. But it's, music is a life source for a lot of people. It's a way to express and to emote and to relate. And I think these are fun conversations, guys. Thanks for that great question. What about you, Stabby? What is one of your top 1 or 2 artists? What is yours? Matt, if you had to say you had one top 1 or 2 artists, what would yours be? I'm curious to know what you guys think.
You mentioned electronic. I do like electronic a lot, and I like some of the popular stuff. So I like Daft Punk a lot.
Oh, me too.
I listen to them
9
a
Inch
lot.
Nails.
9 Inch Nails. I love Portishead, Aphex Twin.
Oh yeah.
The Aphex Twin gets a little like dark and too abstract, but either way, I do like some of his stuff. And yeah.
I didn't even mention Deftones. The White Pony album. Oh my gosh. I mean, just absolutely brilliant. I mean, that was just one that was just, Oh, I like what Patricia says here. Patricia says there was no greater thrill than getting a new vinyl record and seeing what the outer and inner covers were. I agree with you. I think that's something that is missed. And actually, Patricia, I want to share with you one of my favorite moments was actually because of Korn. And it was when I found out that Todd McFarlane did the cover artwork for Follow the Leader. It's that because I actually had grown up past vinyl records and the beauty of the artwork, because in Patricia's example, vinyl records, the artwork was amazing, right? Like getting able to see the inside sleeves. They started doing that a lot with CDs still. It was still there with CDs. We got Gene Woody's over here saying, I agree with Patricia about the vinyl record. I agree. I think it was an amazing experience, but then we kind of got away from it for a while. I don't know if it was the minimalist or whatever it was, but when Todd McFarlane did the cover artwork for Follow the Leader for Korn, I drew that probably 150 different times, and it was amazing. And I agree with you. There was some great artwork. Oh, Matt says STP, Stone Temple Pilots. That's another one. Matt, I agree with you. Stabby says Type O Negative. Type O Negative. Man, you guys are throwing out some wonderful stuff. Amazing. If anybody else out there wants to share what their favorite band is, Patricia, who's your favorite musical artist? What are you into? Now, I will say, Chad mentioned something, guys, as an artist that was huge to me, musical scores and compositions. was amazing. And one of the things that Alvarez did for me as an artist was he would play a lot of classical music in his studio, and that was a huge, huge effect for me. So I still listen, Chad, you and I, and most of the times in the studio, if it's not some of our favorite bands, Tool, Matt's giving me Tool, yes. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on it now. Gosh, A Perfect Circle, Matt, A Perfect Circle. And yes, Alvarez would play a lot of Billy Joel and Frank Sinatra. So Patricia says Billy Joel and Frank Sinatra. I agree. The good old Piano Man and Old Blue Eyes, wonderful stuff. Gene, what do you think? Gene, what do you think? What do we got over there? Lively Linden, what do you think? Defenestration. Anybody that's over there on Twitch, what do you guys think? Who are your favorite musical inspirations? And do you listen to it when you're creating? So the goal here is this something that influences you while you're creating artwork? Or is it just something that's, like we said, a break or a guilty pleasure, if you will? But tell us what you guys have. We've got Matt still saying Candlebox. Man, he's just rattling off. This guy, Blind Melon, oh my goodness, here we go. He's making me feel young again. This is amazing. Mm-hmm. I used to always want to design album artwork, actually. We actually have a student here who has released her own CD. And I'm going to be honest, when she was telling me about it, I didn't know what to expect. I had to go and buy a new CD player because the one in my attic no longer worked. Plug that sucker in, put the CD in, and was just absolutely blown away. It's Liz Lee. It was absolutely amazing. Very, very good, and just was absolutely blown away. And it's wild. And I looked at it, I said, this was exceptional. This was very, very good. So that's also part of the fun of being in a creative community, Dad. We have talents and skills that we didn't even know people had. Oh, my goodness. Oh, what a puppy.
This is Jupiter. Sorry, sweet but annoying miniature schnauzer. She's a big barker. So drives my kids crazy sometimes with how much she barks.
Let's see what Patricia says here. She says, sometimes I love to have dead silence so I can hear myself. Tell me how my work sucks. That sounds about part. Yes. So perhaps maybe not have dead silence. That way you don't feel that way. And as an instructor, I would tell you, the more you get that out of your vernacular, the more that you get that mindset out of your head, you are going to continue to grow and expand by not having that negativity surround yourself. And so I would encourage you, Patricia, as I've done ever since we started working together, to get that negative mindset out of there because it will affect your work. And yes, we don't always do the things that we love, that we think we should execute and do well, but get that mindset out because your work does not suck. It is very, very good. And sometimes we do work that's not very good. I like the joke. I get that you're joking. I get a little over too serious, but I want you to work on not being so negative because that will help you be a lot better. Oh my gosh, Gene Woody just blew my mind, and I'm so embarrassed. I can't believe I forgot about it. The Beatles. The Beatles. Honestly, one of my favorite bands, Led Zeppelin. I cannot believe that I didn't even mention good old Led Zeppelin.
How dare you?
I know it. But there's just so many. We've been so fortunate to have so many creative musicians and endeavors. It's almost like ranking artists, Chad. It's a very big challenge to even try to do.
Yeah.
And Jupiter's not there anymore. My wife is a huge fan of Red Hot Chili Peppers, which always blew me away. I had no idea she was such a huge fan of Red Hot Chili Peppers. Let's see what we've got here. I'm going to keep taking a look at this space here. I need to go ahead and work that in. Well, Chad, it's amazing to me, every single time, every week, these moments just keep going by so fast. Like the painting sessions. I can't believe we're coming up on 2 hours already.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Ooh, Beastie Boys. Matt's throwing out, man. Matt, it's almost like you watched a whole lot of MTV in the early to mid 90s. But I remember Beastie Boys blew my mind. But then you talk about 90s rap, it was infectious everywhere, right? I listened personally to a ton of Bone Thugs and Harmony. And I listened to a lot of Boys and Men too, but I love the harmonization that they brought. They were just unbelievable. And I'm not a lyricist. My wife laughs all the time. She's like, how can you love music so much and not know any lyrics? Well, because for me, the voice almost becomes an instrument, right? Even if they're rapping, it becomes part of the musical score and composition. I guess maybe that's why I like Chester so much from Linkin Park. But Coolio, yeah, Gangster's Paradise, absolutely. Golly, I couldn't go see the movie, but I felt like I couldn't get in. I wasn't the age, and that probably tells you something. But I loved Gangster's Paradise. It was amazing. I think he passed away, didn't he? I think he did. So sad. If you guys come into the academy, we have a record player in our lounge and reception area. And you guys are more than welcome to come in and put on a record. We've got a wide variety. In fact, Connie just donated, Chad, one of our students, Connie, just donated from her husband's record collection about 15 different albums. And wow. I got to sit down and look through all of them yet. But boy, what a wonderful contribution to the artistic and creative community around here. Connie, if you're watching, thank you so much. That's amazing. We're so grateful for it, and it just builds the atmosphere and the community here at VAAS. And it's just so wonderful that you're willing to donate and contribute that. She even contributed, she knows that we have a lot of young artists. She even donated a number of kids' musical albums and story albums, and just what a unique gift to give to the creative world that we've built around here. Yeah, I used to be a big fan of DMX, but my brother and I would sing, oh gosh, I can't remember what it is. Now I'm blanking on it. That's how it happens. My brother and I used to sing back and forth one of the DMX songs, and that was one of the only times I remembered lyrics, because I didn't want to let my brother down when he would kick it over to me, so to speak. And, but see, I'm going to go old school on you guys. I remember the rapper from Canada named Snow. We listened to, obviously,
Informer.
Love Cypress Hill so much. That was great. It was, like I said, I just think that the early 90s was just such an amazing, early and mid 90s was just such an amazing time for music. You had just about everything imaginable. It was amazing. I don't like this cheek over here. This is why it's good to step away. You pick up things that you don't see when you're super close. And ultimately, it becomes a major, sometimes it's not, but it can be a major improvement. So I'm grateful that I stepped away, and I'm going to need to do it again here in a second. Man, Matt is just going to town. We could read off, all of these, man. Wow, he's going through it. ICP, Silverchair, Toad, Toad the Wet, Sprott. I don't know that one.
Yeah, Chad, I remember them. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that one. That's one I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, I remember Toad the Wet Sprocket.
Queen. How are we having a musical conversation and nobody thinks of Queen or Freddie Mercury? Come on, ladies and gentlemen. Bohemian Rhapsody? Who doesn't know that song? There's no human being on this planet that doesn't know Bohemian Rhapsody. I would argue that that's the only reason that what's his name's movie succeeded, was because that car scene where they sang Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, Wayne's World. Yeah.
Wayne's World, thank you. Yeah. Without that scene, that movie does not exist. I'm kidding, of course. Great movie.
I think I've told this story before, but my wife is a general manager at a restaurant. She runs a restaurant and here downtown in Louisville. And one night, they will get celebrities in there from time to time because they're downtown and they're located right next to a major hotel. And anytime there's like, a big show or whatever, they usually stay in the hotel there. And so they'll come over for dinner. So she's had a lot of like super famous people in there before. And I all of a sudden my stinking brain is going blank on his name. Gosh, he's like a huge star right now. Gosh, I could see his face, but all right, this whole story is like pointless
That's right.
now because I get.
Now you got me sitting on pins and needles. Now I really want to know.
Oh gosh, let me look it up. But anyways,
What are they famous for?
do I?
What are they famous for?
Oh, singing. That is yeah. But I will tell you, yesterday, Shane Gillis came in there.
No way.
Yeah. And
Wow.
yeah, so she got to meet him, which was really cool. Let's see here.
Boy, he made a big splash recently at one of the award shows, didn't he?
Yeah, that was hilarious.
I thought so too.
It wasn't funny for the people listening, but I thought it was
It
hilarious.
went over so many of the viewers' heads.
I know.
The audience. That was the best part for me was like, us as viewers, I think a lot of us got it. And then, the viewers there just did not get it.
Yeah, it was awesome. Oh, Bruno Mars.
Oh, super talented.
Yeah, so he was in town like last summer or whatever. And that whenever they have like a huge celebrity, they always have an assistant will come into the restaurant and like kind of scope it out and then be like, hey, my client wants to come in for dinner, but they're famous, so we want to make sure that they get kind of a private
Right.
area or whatever. And so they did that, and he came in like right when they were closing and asked if they could stay, and so they did, and they kept the restaurant open just for them. And so she got to talk to him and meet him, and he and his little group stayed there after hours to like 2 or 3 in the morning. And
awesome.
it was just them, and then they came back the next night and did the same thing, except they got there at like 2 a.m. and stayed until like super late or whatever. And yeah, so that was one of the most famous people that have been there. But the only reason why I thought about it, we were talking about musicians. I thought Bruno Mars, and then Shane Gillis was there. There's been a couple other people that have come in. That Chevy Chase has been there a couple times.
Oh, wow.
There's been some other actors, like the guy that played Green Lantern, and he was in This Is Us. He was one of the twins. Justin Hartley, he was in there a couple times. And I'm trying to think musician-wise. There was a couple other musicians in there. There was a famous rapper from the 90s that came in there that hardly anyone knew because everyone's young now,
Yeah. Yeah.
He was the man. I can't think of his name, but he was in there.
Pretty soon people are going to be saying, that person, they were at VAAS. You believe
Oh,
that?
yeah.
They a studio open for them.
That'd be nice. Yeah.
Hey, look, dream big. I'm dreaming big, brother. This place, we're gonna dream big.
I like it.
My boy is gonna be coming in here and talking up some art with me someday, and he's not gonna remember who you were.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I'm kidding. You're a very impactful person. I know they meet a lot of people. He may not remember everything, but I'm sure that he would be, oh, yes, I do recall.
Yeah, I do recall when he was stalking me. Yeah.
Maybe that's not good, but
I do recall when I called the police that one time.
This is going to be a major frustration for me. I should probably not ever paint my wife again. Because no matter what I'm doing, I just don't think I'm capturing her. And I know what you say, and you're right. You just got to keep working it. You got to keep working it. I agree with you, sir, but I am just struggling. I just can't seem to. Boy, it's still early. I got to trust the process. But I just looked at it. I felt pretty good about it the other day, and now I just really looked at it. I'm like, oh boy, this is a little rough.
Matt mentioned Jack Harlow. Yeah, Jack Harlow's been in there too. Been in the restaurant.
I think he's been in every restaurant in the city of Louisville, and good on him.
He's local, so yeah, that's really cool. Bill Murray's been in there before. Yeah.
Seth Jones has been in that restaurant before.
Have you been there? You been downtown?
Yeah, it's been a while, but yes, I have. It's before I knew you guys, but I'd like to go back downtown again and eat there sometime soon. I think it'd be wonderful. All right, Zach. There are some pieces that I just want to turn out better than others. I want every piece to go really, really well. Don't get me wrong, but there are some that it's just like, man, I really want to nail it. I really want to get it right. And this is one of them. Dun, dun, dun. Well, we're coming up on just about time, Chad. Anything you want to go over or discuss? Well, we got just a couple more minutes.
I don't know. Just working on this side view of the spaceship right now.
And how's it going? You feeling a little bit
feeling
better?
Pretty good about it. I think it'll be a nice little exercise to do kind of a character rotation on the ship. I think it'll be a nice little portfolio piece. So glad to do it.
Awesome.
Matt says, what about that famous artist, man? What's his name? He taught it. Oh, gosh. He taught it, boss.
Was he bearded? No, we are so incredibly fortunate. We absolutely love having Chad as instructor here. We're so fortunate to have Sarah Nicole and of course, Layla, and just everybody that's involved. We have an exceptional team here. We're so fortunate. Incredibly blessed, and the whole goal is that we do all this to benefit you all. We want to make sure that you have the best artistic growth experience that you can have, and we care tremendously. And so we're constantly trying to improve ourselves. You heard Chad talk about it earlier. Making sure that he's continued to try new techniques, new skills as an instructor. We're constantly reaching new heights as artists ourselves. This is part of the reason we do this, is to continue to hone in on our craft. I was literally talking to a director of art educators, and we were discussing, and I think one of the most prolific things that they said was a lot of times art educators forget that they're artists first, right? They become so focused on education that they forget that they need to hone in on their craft and master their craft as well. And I thought that was incredibly prolific by her, because I agree. I think, even when I was a teacher, I didn't create as much initially in a traditional setting, because you get so sucked into teaching. And so I agree. I think that's part of the reason we do all this, is to make sure that we can be the best artists that we can be for instruction, and make sure we can give a high level of information to everybody. So we're working on our craft right along with you guys. We're grateful that you guys are here with us. We plan to be back next week. We do this pretty much most every Saturday. So make sure that you guys put it on your calendars. Make sure you give us a like, subscribe, or follow, and share it out with your friends, guys, because the more we get, the better our conversations get, the more fun we tend to have. But we are so grateful for each and every single one of you guys. You guys are absolutely always amazing. You always bring great comments, great conversation. A lot of times I joke that Chad and I put the conversation into creativity, but Chad, the reality is it's them. They're putting the conversation into creativity, and you and I just get to take the long answers and run around all over the place and make the short story long, if you will.
That's
so
right.
So grateful for all of you guys. Thank you guys so incredibly much. We're going to wrap up But thank you guys for anything. Actually, one last comment. Let's see what we got here. Okay, that was Matt just giving you kudos again.
Yeah. As
but we
well
are
he
so-
should.
As he should. I agree 100%. We're so grateful for each and every single one of you guys. We will see you next week where we have our first week under our belt of our new semester of classes. You guys have been absolutely amazing. We hope that you tune in, give us a like, follow, subscribe, a share, something of that magnitude. And if you're watching afterwards, don't forget you can join us live or you can watch these on most of your streaming platforms afterwards. We're grateful for each and every single one of you guys. Chad, anything you want to close this out with, brother?
No, I'm with you. I always enjoy this time together, and I always look forward to the discussion. And another week in the books.
That's right. Next week, episode, I think, 37. We will see you guys next Saturday for another round of VAAS Live. Thank you guys, and have a great evening.
See y'all.